Welcome back, everybody. We're going to continue this thought of what do healthy boundaries look like. And we got into some last time, just some cool stuff about the number one relationship mistake. Today's going to feel, we're going to hit some and just hit them briefly, but I still want you to have them in your kind of toolbox to think through. And then there's a couple we're going to hover around because they tend to give us a little more challenge than some of the others. So the next statement, what do healthy boundaries look like? If you have healthy boundaries, you're able to say no and hear no without paralyzing fears. It's just interesting how, and I would say it's true of everybody, but I think maybe there's an extra little spin to it for us as Christians because we have this underlying sort of philosophy or this sense that, we're supposed to serve people and put their needs in front of our own. So the whole concept of saying no is just a little bit creepy to us. I really believe it's healthy to say no, obviously in appropriate places with appropriate people. And I would even go so far as to say you should practice saying no. It's going to sound a little weird sitting here by myself, but, practice saying no. Say it loud, say it soft, say it high, say it low. No, 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 no. I mean, put a picture up in your car of someone who's hard to say no to and just point to it and say, I said no. Is there something about the word no you don't understand? All I'm saying is practice feeling the word no coming out of you without you just kind of feeling all like you're doing something wrong. To give you some help in this, let me just help you think a little bit. If you can't say no to someone, you can't say yes. If the friendship is so, intermingled, interdependent, codependent, that you can't say no to the friend or to the spouse or to the child, then what good is your yes? I have a weird little story I tell. It's not true exactly, but similar things have happened. So I'm ending a church service, I've just spoken, and you stand around and talk to people, and this couple comes to me and says, well, Pastor, can you and Colleen come over to our house for dinner Saturday night? Well, we've already got plans for Saturday night. I won't go into what they are, but we've already got plans for Saturday night. Where's my Saturday night? It's inside my circle. Where's their Saturday night? Inside their circle. Am I responsible for their Saturday night? No. Are they responsible for mine? No. Now, if I have the guilt-driven form of Christianity that many people have, I don't feel like it's fair or right for me to say no. So I say, hey, Pastor, can you and Colleen come to dinner Saturday night? And I say, sure, we'd be glad to. What am I feeling on the inside? Here's an interesting thought. An internal no cancels out an external yes. So what am I thinking driving over there on Saturday night? I'm resentful. I'm angry. I'm like, this is blah. Can I expect God to bless me? You reap what you sow. Can I expect God to bless me? Well, let's slow that one down a minute. If somebody steals your wallet, you can't say you tithe to the poor, can you? In other words, I didn't give them my Saturday night. I just didn't have the guts to say no. They didn't take my Saturday night. I gave it to them because of my weakness and inability to say no. So let's wind it back. Same people, same situation, but I have a better understanding of boundaries and a better understanding of how this stuff works. And Pastor, can you and Colleen come to dinner Saturday night? And I'm thinking about the cool plans that we have. And I say, can't do it. Maybe we can look for another time and meet. And they start walking away very dejected. By the way, what's one thing they expect? They expect an explanation because they feel, listen to this word, entitled to an explanation. My Saturday night's in my circle and it's none of their business. I don't mean that to sound cold, but I'm just trying to jar you that we're surrounded by these weird little rules that just don't make sense. So they start to walk away. Now, am I alone in my circle? No, the Holy Spirit's in there with me. So what if they're starting to walk away? I said, no, we can't do it. And what if the little voice in there says, Chipper, they could really use some time with you and Colleen. Would you please give them your Saturday night? Now, here's what's cool. Because I can say no, I can say yes. So I say, hey, wait a minute. Let me check with Colleen, and let me see if we can work something out. Now, I'm driving over there on Saturday night. What am I thinking? Wow, God asked me to do this. Wow, God must be up to something. You know, and I'm excited about the God moment that could be ready to happen. Now, same question. Now can I expect God to bless me for what I've done? Yeah, because I didn't let somebody take my Saturday night. I freely gave it. So I just think we need to rethink this whole saying yes and saying no. I don't know about you, but I want friends whose no is no and their yes is yes. I don't want friends who I never really know what they're thinking because they don't have the guts to tell me. I want friends around me that'll tell me, you know, that sermon you just did, dude, it wasn't your best. I don't want them to blow smoke at me. I want them to tell me the truth. I love this statement. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is not selfish. What I'm doing right now, and when I meet with people or traveling, whatever, pastoring at Seacoast Church, part of my responsibility is to be in the best possible spiritual shape, emotional, marital, physical. So I've got to take care of myself. I've got to manage my own boundaries, commitments, and expectations so that when I do get around other people, I'm the best version of myself. So self-care is not selfish. And that's all under the quality of healthy boundaries. You're able to say no and hear no without paralyzing fears. Here's another one for you. You take responsibility, there's that word again, for the consequences of your choices. Your choices are inside your circle. You're responsible for them. Even if somebody else you feel like has manipulated you. Remember Adam and Eve. God says, Adam, what have you done? Oh, Eve made me do it. God goes to Eve and says, Eve, what have you done? Oh, the devil made me do it. The bottom line is Adam made a choice. He's responsible for the consequence of that choice. Eve made a choice. She's responsible for the consequence of that choice. The devil's another matter. But you have to take responsibility for the consequences of your choices. Whoever makes the decision is responsible for the result of that decision. I don't want any more responsibility than I have. So I don't want to make decisions for people. The next one, just a characteristic of a person who has healthy boundaries. You have realistic expectations in your relationships. What does that mean? Well, no idolatry. You're not expecting the other person to meet needs they can't meet. And you allow for the freedom to go through things separately and or together that are not necessarily your fault. They're not your responsibility. And therefore you have realistic, fair expectations. You're not carrying the weight of somebody else's happiness. They're not carrying the weight of your happiness. You've learned how to go to God for what you need first and most. So another quality of people with healthy boundaries would be you're able to manage your emotional responses and cycles. Please notice I didn't use the word control. Not a real fan of that word because it's kind of an illusion in the first place. But manage means life's going to bump you. Life's going to kind of rock your boat a little bit. And you're going to have to figure out emotionally, mentally, how you respond to that. Your emotions are in your circle, mine are in mine. I've got to learn how to manage mine in light of how the people around me, the events around me are playing out. And we're actually going to be talking about that here in the next lesson or two. This one's a big one. You allow others to experience the consequences of their choices. We're going to slow this one down a little bit. If you have healthy boundaries, think with me for a minute now. If you have healthy boundaries, you allow others to experience the consequences of their choices. A minute ago, I said we take responsibility for our choices. Well, if I'm going to have healthy boundaries with you, I've got to allow you to experience the consequences of your choices. How do you learn to make good decisions? I mean, start young up to whatever. How do you learn to make good decisions? Well, the best way I ever heard it put is this. You learn how to make good decisions by making bad ones, if the one who makes the decision pays for it. In other words, imagine little Johnny, little 2-3-year-old Johnny. Mom says, Johnny, if you clean up your blocks, you can have a snack. Mom, goes back to whatever she's doing. She comes back 5-10 minutes later, and blocks are still all over the floor. And she says, well, I guess, Johnny, you've decided you don't want a snack. No, I want a snack. No. I said, if you want a snack, clean up your blocks. You didn't clean up your blocks, so you must have decided you don't want a snack. Now, please don't think a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old can't understand that. They know exactly what's happening here. So what you're teaching him is, you make a good decision, a good choice, you're going to experience a good consequence. You make a bad choice, a bad decision, you're going to experience a bad consequence. Good decisions lead to good consequences. Bad decisions lead to bad consequences. All right, now he's 12. Hey, Johnny, here's the deal, man. If you don't clean your room, make your bed before you go to school, when you get home, you're going to have to sit in your room with no electronic devices for 30 minutes. And Johnny goes off to school about 11 o'clock. Oh, man, I didn't make my bed. I'm going to have to sit in my room and stare at the wall for 30 minutes. This is going to be terrible. So little Johnny gets home, and nobody's there to give him a hard time. He goes up to his room, and guess what? Magically, his bed's made. There's milk and cookies on his bedside table. Nobody says a word to him. Did Johnny learn anything? Most people instinctively say no, but yeah, he did. He did. I'm going to say something really strong here. He learned that his parents are liars and cowards. They're liars and cowards. Dude, did you just say that? Yeah, I did. Because I said to him, if you don't blank, this is what's going to happen. He didn't blank, but I did not make him pay the consequences. Oh, well, that's just not a big deal, just making his bed. Well, about 30 years later, he's going to be dragged into my office with his wife, and she's going to want to claw his parents' eyes out because they raised a spoiled brat. Discipline, listen to this now. Discipline is the art of teaching self-control by managing the consequences the person experiences. The way you learn to control yourself is by paying for the moments when you don't. The way you learn to control yourself is by paying for the moments you don't. Now, here's a tough statement for you. It's very difficult to enforce this principle if you're not able, listen to this now. It's very difficult to enforce this principle if you're not able to watch loved ones suffer. Little Johnny suffered by not getting a snack. If you can't afford to have 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes where little Johnny's mad at you, or little Johnny's in the corner crying, if you can't afford to watch Johnny suffer, you're not going to have healthy boundaries with little Johnny. 12 years old. If you can't afford to be waiting at the door and tell him, give me your phone or give me your whatever, and go up to your room and sit quietly by yourself. If you can't afford to risk your son temporarily being mad at you, temporarily whatever, if you can't risk that temporary feeling of not being liked, then you're going to have a hard time passing boundaries on to your kids. It's really important, really important. I cannot overstress it. We're going to talk specifically about parenting in a lesson coming up. It's really important that you learn the significance of that. All right, just a couple more that we're just going to hit real quickly. If you have healthy boundaries, you don't manipulate or attempt to control others. You have to get used to allowing people to make their choices, and you have to live with the choices they make. The next one, you recognize and resist the attempts of others to control or manipulate you. Now, this one, I don't think we got to make an issue of it every time somebody tries to manipulate or control us. Sometimes people will do that, and I just kind of look at them and say, wow, that was a really good try. I don't necessarily have to tell them that, but I like to be sensitive to when I feel like it's happening. And the last thought in this area, what do healthy boundaries look like? You're able to make and keep promises to yourself. It's actually a Stephen Covey thought. If you ever thought about the serenity prayer in the context of boundaries, listen to this piece of it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, other people, the courage to change the things I can, probably me, and the wisdom to know the difference. I just think that's a really cool picture of how boundaries operate. All right, next lesson, we're going to talk about when, where, and how we've got the boundaries that we have. Where did I learn to carry myself in relationships the way I did? Another way to say it is, how did I become the person that I am today? And we're going to talk about that in our next lesson. I love talking about what we did in this last lesson, the whole issue of saying no. In our Christian circles, we do get hung up on this idea that we're supposed to serve people, we're supposed to put their needs in front of our own. And I believe all of that. But I believe it's much easier to serve people if my own needs are met, if my own bucket is full, you might say. So I believe we need to learn how to use the words yes and no. I think they're extraordinarily powerful words, and we need to learn to use them carefully, I would probably be comfortable saying, but we need to learn to use them in a way that's healthy, that defines and defends our boundaries without violating someone else's. So I would just encourage you to kind of monitor yourself, monitor your key core relationships, and kind of discover when it's hard for you to say no, when you're saying yes, when on the inside you really are feeling a no, and just kind of process through how you're handling the use of the words yes and no.